Oh, what a surprise! You may see here on the top how Russian Shahed drones, or Giran drones as they call them, are crossing the border between Ukraine and Poland. The attack happened just the last night at 2 a.m., something like that, so usually Russia launches lots of the drones on Ukraine, and we're gonna speak about it a little later, but the breaking news that drones massively this time entered Poland. I mean massively, it's more than 10. On this picture they are shown 5 of the drones. It's the first batch, but later on drones went to Poland even from Belarus airspace. And we have definitely the confirmation about it because NATO aviation was alerted to shut down Shahed drones, and some of them, at least some of them, were shut down. Maybe some drones are still flying there. I'm recording this video early morning, so everything could happen still. And remember the news from August, then Russia once again provokes NATO countries. Poland says Russian drone crashes near its village. Then in 1 week Russia sent one more drone, and now we see 10 of the drones at least crossing into Polish airspace by mistake. Probably, right? Well, at least Russia may say like that. It was a mistake. No, Ukraine used the anti-drone warfare to direct our peaceful drones to Poland. Ukraine is responsible for it. Actually, I read Twitter and there are some of the voices like that already, that Ukraine is responsible. Those were Ukrainian drones, or Ukraine deflected the trajectory of the Russian drones. But in fact, yeah, that is what I expected. I told that it will be like that Russia will send a bunch of the drones if there is a weak reaction from NATO, and it seems like this weak reaction still continues. Yeah, at least they launched fighter jets to shut down those drones in their airspace, but what is next? What happens if Russia sends those drones once again? And they will send those, and more than 10. NATO and Polish officials will continue to say how concerned they are. Yeah, And you may say, Dennis, what is your proposal? Like, what can we do as a NATO? Well, at least close the airspace over Ukraine. Use your fighter jets to stop those drones in Ukrainian airspace. It was the constant request from Ukraine since 2022, block our skies because you could be next. But no, NATO officials, they were scared, because Russia could think that they are taking the part in this war and they may attack their countries. Well, attack already happened. Yeah, I heard some of the voices from experts saying in the internet that it was the Russian provocation. Russia provokes NATO to respond. We shouldn't respond on that, no. Because, Russia tests the reaction of NATO. Putin also tests the reaction of Donald Trump. Putin tests the range of the Shahed drones. How far can they go into NATO? What can I say, guys? This is the freaking weak pussy reaction. Russia attacked Poland with their drones. Those are not surveillance drones. No, those are flying shells, which intercepted into NATO airspace. So do not sugarcoat it. That's the war act against NATO. Yeah, without proclaiming the war itself, but it is the act of war. It is not a freaking provocation. And those experts who continue to tell that it's the provocation, okay, what would you do if next Russia provokes NATO with 100 drones? And what would you do if NATO intervenes into Estonia, again saying about provocation, oh, this Estonia, Russia wants to test the reaction of allies. They provoke NATO sending their forces to Tallinn, they occupy Tallinn. Okay, we shouldn't respond on that because it will mean the Third World War. After all, it seems like provocation, isn't it? So we shouldn't be provoked to start the Third World War. Third World War is out there, guys. It has been started a long time ago. And you cannot escape. The weak reaction actually encourages Putin to attack NATO even more. He sees that those are the freaking weak pussies in NATO. NATO equals useless United Nations organization. So let's push it hard because Putin is bored. He needs движуха, so action. And listen to this guy, German Chancellor Merz, who says that Putin's plans don't end with Ukraine but begin there. So it's 100% what some politicians, as Donald Trump, say is the regional conflict in Ukraine about 5 regions is not like that. No, and we all witnessed it this night. Then Russia launched their drones to attack Poland. Guys, after I finished recording the main part of the video, this information was published, so breaking news, one of the Shahed drones hit the local household in Poland, the village of Wyryki. I just hope that there were no any casualties, and at this stage it doesn't matter whether those were debris of the drone or the drones were programmed to fly in this particular house. It doesn't really freaking matter. This is the act of aggression from the Russian Federation against NATO. Expecting some of the reaction in this case. Alright, more about the actual attack. There were regions of Poland which were closed for the air traffic operation. Many airports closed, including the main airport in the capital city of Warsaw. Flight trackers gave the information even about F-35 fighter jet of the United States Air Force, that also took part in eliminating Russian drones, together with F-16s of Polish Air Force. Somehow it was squawked 7600, which means the loss of the radiocom. Notices to airmen about the closure of many of the Polish airports were published. Lots of the airplanes diverted or either were waiting for their destination airports to be open. Polish Air Force used the surveillance airplane, the Saab. Also Ukrainian army, by the way, has two of those, thanks to Sweden for supplying those to Ukraine. It was flying for kind of a long time, providing surveillance for fighter jets which were working against those drones. Even the air tanker was deployed to refuel F-35 fighter jet. Yeah, it was struck by many of the followers here. I have the fresh information by the time I'm recording this video that Warsaw airport itself is open, but airspace is still closed around, so airplanes cannot take off or land. And you know the scale of the production of those Shahed drones in Russia, they may produce thousands of those per month. So shutting them down in Polish airspace will not make any sort of the difference for Russia. They may still produce more and more. So this war goes on escalation phase. Different countries are now being touched. As it was reported, I cannot confirm this information, that one of the drones also went to Moldova, but Moldova is not the member of NATO at least. But Russia, it seems like it doesn't care any longer. Whether it's NATO or not, they expect just a weak reaction. As I do, by the way, I do not expect any sort of the prompt movement from NATO. I really think that organization is very, very weak, especially right now with Donald Trump in the White House. Yeah, there is the meeting ongoing between Prime Minister Tusk and military officials plus his cabinet ministers. Right now, all of them are sad because they don't know what to do. Yeah, they coordinated their efforts with NATO to shut down those drones, but what is next? Like, Russia will send those once again. What would you do? This so-called provocation, but I call it a military aggression act from Russia, goes only from the Russian side. So Poland plus other NATO countries, they should freaking arm Ukraine with everything they have. Ukraine is the only force which may go on open confrontation against Russia. I mean military, also deep inside Russian territory. Give Ukraine everything to produce and gain those long-range missiles, to annihilate the Russian drone factories, their facilities in Labuga, where Russia produces the most part of their Shahed drones, and so on. Russian economy, those refineries, oil storages, but no, NATO countries, European countries, they continue to purchase Russian gas and oil, and they have the plan to stop buying the Russian fossil fuels till 2028. But freaking Russian drones are flying to NATO and to Europe right now. And Russia uses the money from European Union to buy those military drones to launch them to European Union. Wow, what a scheme. Yeah, I was always saying that those European bureaucrats, especially Angela Merkel in Germany, they actually helped Putin's regime to become what it is now by purchasing Russian gas and fossil fuels on a large scale. They thought that it could continue forever despite Russian annexation of Crimea, despite Russian military action in Donbass since 2014. No, just business. And they helped to grow the Russian economy. And Russia doesn't need those European partners, I would say, any longer. Russia has partners in India, in China, in other countries. So despite the economic recession in Russia, Russian military will continue to gain more money from China, especially because recently Russia and China sent the agreement to purchase Panda bonds. So China may now loan money to Russia. For now, we're speaking about not huge sums, but it is the first step for China to maintain the Russian economy. And China foreign minister openly says that they will not allow Russia to lose. So it's the bigger confrontation. Autocracies against democracies. It's not about Ukraine actually, but again, Ukraine is the only force which can openly act in military and other actions against Russia nowadays. Those fellas, they are shocked, as I see from their faces, but they should have expected this scenario to happen long freaking time ago. I was telling about it on my channel, as well as many experts and also intelligence services of the European countries, of Germany, but no, apparently it was a surprise. Remember the times then Romania and Poland hesitated even to shut down Russian drones that accidentally flown to their airspaces. Prime Minister Tusk calls for emergency meeting of the Polish parliament. It's going to happen at 8 a.m. They will discuss how they're concerned about what happened, but what would be the actions? Guys, I don't honestly expect like the prompt action. Well, I would be really surprised if it happens, like if they announce we're gonna operate in Western Ukraine to shut down the drones which are flying to Poland. So at least like that. I'm not saying that Poland should attack Moscow or something, even though it could be a nice scenario, but at least protect your own airspace in Ukraine. You cannot act from the passive perspective, just waiting for the Russian drones to hit your civilians even. So what Polish people could do to protect themselves against the Russian drones? Support Ukrainian army, support our volunteers who launched, for example, those interceptor drones to shut down Shahids while they're flying in Ukrainian airspace. So Sternenka Fund is doing this, so I will share it also on my Twitter. Repost and like. Polish people, please support Ukraine because we care about you as well. Ukraine is definitely a shield. Maybe today Russia launched 50 drones in Poland and 40 of those were shut down by Ukrainian air defense and our drone operators. You never know, yeah, the destination of those drones any longer. It could be Poland. So support Ukraine because waiting for the prompt reaction from your own politicians, well, you can wait for a very, very long time because they're always afraid to escalate. And you know, I recorded a video about the military drills in Belarus, West 2025. Now, I'm not sure whether those drills would be more or less peaceful and only on Belarus territory. And this is the full picture of the Russian strikes on Ukraine and on Poland this night. Yellow are the drone tracking and red are the cruise missiles. Russia launched lots of the cruise missiles. Now it's been calculated, the exact number. I'm waiting for information and confirmation. But according to initial information, it was definitely a big number. Russia hasn't launched that number of the cruise missiles since the last 4 months. Some part of the infrastructure was hit in Vinnytsia Oblast, at least 2 of the sources of fire. Oh, interesting news, it was published, by the way, yesterday, so before the Russian attack on Poland. So Poland to get 43.7 billion euros under EU defense program. The previous Polish airspace violations by the Russian drones actually triggered European Union to increase the finances of Poland defense programs. But Poland alone cannot handle this threat. It should be the common decision from NATO of how to respond on that, and it should be done as fast as possible. If it were several decades ago, the reaction on this provocation would be really strong, but now politicians, they're doing absolutely nothing. Blah, 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 that's it, and Putin is encouraged. Oh, by the way, we have the new satellite image of the Russian Elaboga facility, which was previously hit by Ukraine. It is the biggest factory where Russia produces Shahid drones, and now we see some of the repairs down to the roof. But mainly this factory is still working, and Russia hires teenagers to produce those drones. But it's still a legitimate target for Ukraine and now for NATO as well. So NATO should support Ukraine in a long-range strikes on those facilities and on other Russian infrastructure to harm the Russian economy and the military and stop freaking buying Russian gas and oil. But yeah, as we know, European countries near Russia puzzled by United States plans to cut defense funding, so Europe should rely on its own. And it is already the interest of Europe of not to fund Russia but to fund their own armies. United States will not help with this major aggression. They just launched today F-35, a single F-35, you know, just to fly it, to shut down those drones, but do not expect anything more from United States because they cut defense funding for Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. By the time the funding should be increased by several times. It is crazy, guys, unhinged. Putin is still playing with Donald Trump as he wants, and Trump is not seeing Putin as his direct enemy. Then in fact, it's like that. Dictators unite against democracy, and Trump is like, well, he's so incompetent to react on that. The worst president for this time. Very hard time. And here, if you want to check out the Trump's reaction on the question about the Russian drone strike on Poland.
Mr. President, any response to Russia? Mr. President, what about Russian drones getting into Polish airspace tonight?
He doesn't care. No comment. Absolutely. And you see, Ukrainian sanctions on the Russian oil are working because Hungary even concludes its longest-term deal with a Western supplier. Wow. They made the deal with the Shell company because they understood that Ukraine will continue to eliminate Druzhba pipeline, so they have to search for alternates. The same, I think, will go for Slovakia. So there are alternates always for Europe, but why you buy Russian oil and gas? I don't understand, especially right now that Russia starts, I say it like it is, then Russia starts the war against NATO. Alright, latest information from the Polish command, it seems like all of the drones were shut down and Netherlands actually helped to shut down the drones, probably using F-35. I'm not good at Polish, but it seems like after all, it wasn't the United States F-35, pardon if I'm not correct here, but we see that Netherlands helped a lot. Also, Italy launched their surveillance airplane and other NATO countries participated into repelling this massive attack of Russia on NATO, which has nothing to do with provocation. Provocation means that something harmful, potentially harmful, is not happening in real life, that, for example, Russia launches some of the surveillance drone without the warhead, yeah? Or Russia goes into the airspace of NATO, like it was, by the way, in 2017, then Turkish Air Force shut down Russian Sukhoi 24 tactical bomber. So Turkey didn't hesitate in this case. Yeah, here also drones were shut down, but what is next? What's the next step? Because tomorrow, day after tomorrow, Russia might repeat what it did this night. I think that 100% it will repeat because there will be just a weak, very weak response. And by the way, you see that some of the Russian drones, they go to the Polish airspace, but they divert back to Ukraine, and Poland didn't do anything with this. Polish defense minister said that they shut down the drones that possess the threat for Poland. So for the drones which are coming back to Ukraine and hit Ukrainian cities, civilians and everything, it's pretty much okay. Well, we're gonna let them fly. They do not possess any threat for us. And in this case, Poland and other NATO bordering states with Belarus and Russia expect this picture coming. Not maybe tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow or somewhere in perspective, it's gonna be the same. Trust me. Guys, this video I recorded with some of the emotions because I am sick and tired of this weakness of Western democracies. I see what is happening globally. The threats are out there and weak politicians, they cannot handle the current threats. Nevertheless, guys, I'm gonna keep you updated on the situation in Ukraine and, you see, not only, and expect one more video, at least one more today published on this channel. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.